Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. The headlines. The Maharlika Investment Corporation sets its sights on a game-changing first investment in the energy sector this quarter. Global Ferronickel hits back hard, calling the citizenship controversy surrounding its chairman recycled and baseless. And a shockwave in Canadian politics as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announces that he will step down as the leader of the Liberal Party. Let's take a quick look at the financial markets. Over in the U.S., Wall Street, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq closed Monday in positive territory, driven by a semiconductor stock rally and speculation that the incoming Trump administration may take a less aggressive approach to tariffs than initially feared. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was flat, down by less than 0.1%. The S&P 500 higher by 0.6%, and the Nasdaq markedly higher, up by 1.24%.
Well, we've been seeing volatility as we have over the last several days. The market started off on a very solid footing and then seemed to give back some of that. But tech continues to be in the lead because of a nice surprise by Foxconn in its fourth quarter revenues, which sort of triggered an advance by the other semiconductor stocks. So I think investors are starting the year very optimistically toward tech in general and semiconductors in particular.
Across Europe, markets ended the day on a high note. The FTSE 100 added 0.3%. Over in Germany, the DAX up by 1.6%, and France's CAC 40 up sharply, up by 2.24%. Now, the Philippine manufacturing sector closes 2024 on a high note, with the Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, soaring to 54.3% in December. This marks its strongest performance in 7 years. This also signals resilient industrial growth and renewed business optimism. Now, this robust recovery bolsters job creation and enhances investor confidence as the country gears up for 2025. Sujin Kim has the details.
The Philippine manufacturing sector ended 2024 with the strongest growth since 2017, recording a PMI score of 54.3 in December, indicating sustained growth for 16 consecutive months. Increased demand from both local and global markets drove higher production and new orders. For the first time in 5 months, export orders also picked up, signaling a recovery in international trade. According to Trade Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo, government support for infrastructure and ease of doing business were key factors. Companies also increased purchasing activity, reaching the highest level in nearly 2 years. Despite higher production, there was a marginal decline in employment levels due to production efficiency. S&P also noted lower raw material and supplier costs, keeping product prices affordable.
Very important would be yung infrastructure and spending program, and then yung the government's ability to tame the inflation that drove consumer confidence and then drove consumer spending. Yung mga government initiatives, yung mga Build Better More sa infrastructure natin is a constant in terms of the administration's policies. Yung Create More, we will still be seeing the full impact of Create More. In fact, I would say that towards the last quarter of the year.
Looking ahead, this year, Undersecretary Rodolfo sees further expansion in the manufacturing industry, driven by Create More, the Philippine-South Korea Free Trade Agreement, and the shift to renewable energy.
You will see that there are some technologies in the renewable energy sphere. Yung technologies are already mature and the supply chain is already mature. Then, another driver for 2025 would be yung ating mining and mineral processing. And then, dire-diretso na yun all the way to the downstream industries.
Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Now, the Philippine inflation rate accelerates to 2.9% in December. This according to the latest data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or the PSA. Now, this surpasses the 2.5% recorded in November, but it's still lower than the 3.9% in December of 2023. The latest data sets the average inflation for 2024 to 3.2%, slower than the 6% recorded in 2023. The PSA attributes the accelerated inflation to the faster annual increase of prices in housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels. Now, analysts had expected inflation to come in between 2.3 to 3.1%, with a median average pegged at 2.7%. Yes, this is slightly higher than the 2.5% recorded in November, but this is also largely due to seasonal factors and to the lingering effects from the recent typhoons. Still, what's important is that the inflation rate is in line with the BSP's expectations of inflation between 2 to 4%. And also, more importantly, inflation in line with expectations, relatively benign, gives the BSP room to cut interest rates to continue its easing cycle, and this is going to be good for the equity markets. Now, in other news, the Maharlika Investment Corporation, or MIC, sets its sights on the energy sector for its first investment in early 2025. According to MIC President and CEO Rafael Consing Jr., the corporation is also evaluating investments in food security, healthcare, and mining. Now, these mark the first projects of the MIC since President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed the Maharlika Investments Act into law back in July of 2023. The Development Bank of the Philippines and Land Bank contributed a combined 75 billion pesos as seed capital for the fund. Now, this initiative aims to drive strategic national investments, supports critical sectors to boost economic growth and development. In other news, Global Ferronickel Incorporated, or FNI, hits back at former Congressman Argel Joseph Cabatbat over citizenship allegations against its chairman. Cabatbat claims that FNI Chairman Joseph C. fabricated his Filipino citizenship through a late birth registration. FNI strongly denies this allegation, calling them groundless, recycled, and politically motivated. The company emphasizes that the matter was already addressed and resolved by government agencies, which ruled in C's favor. FNI reaffirms its commitment to defending its leadership against what it's calling baseless attacks. Shifting gears, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announces his decision to step down as the leader of the ruling Liberal Party after 9 years in power. Trudeau confirms that he will remain in office until the party chooses his successor. He also revealed that Parliament will be suspended until March 24th. This follows pressure from his party mates as polls suggest the Liberal Party faces a potential landslide defeat in the next election.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Trudeau, age 53, took office in November of 2015 and secured re-election twice, making him one of Canada's longest-serving prime ministers. His popularity, however, has plummeted in recent years, driven by public discontent over high living costs and a deepening housing crisis. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange opened just a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at the initial figures. Right now at 9:43 this morning, the PSE index is flat, up by less than 0.1% to 66.28. Now, yesterday, you can recall the PSE index kicked off the first trading session of the week in positive territory, marking its third consecutive day of gains, gaining 0.3% to 66.25. Now, again, the gains that we saw were on bargain hunting. After the market expected benign inflation. December 2024 inflation just came in a few minutes ago. It came in at 2.9%. Now, inflation coming in between expectations, in line with the Bangko Central's expectations of between 2 to 4%, gives the BSP room to reduce interest rates perhaps even further, and this is going to be positive for the market. Now, taking a look at the other sub-indices, the All Shares Index is trading sideways with an upward bias, up by 0.1% to 37.99. Taking a look at all the other sub-indices, now the financials, industrial, holding firms, mining and oil and property counters are in the green, while the only one bucking the downtrend right now is the services sector, which is down by 0.4%. Now at the foreign exchange market, the peso opened stronger at 58.15 against the greenback from Friday's close of 58.27. The Bureau of Customs, or the BOC, unveils new guidelines to strengthen the free trade agreement between the Philippines and South Korea. The updated rules will grant South Korean products preferential treatment, including reduced or zero tariffs. This comes after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed Executive Order Number 80, adjusting import duty rates on specific goods covered by the Trade Pact. According to the BOC, the guidelines are designed to ensure a smooth implementation of the agreement and to maximize its economic benefits. Now, this initiative is expected to bolster bilateral trade, attract investments, and create more opportunities for Filipino businesses. Now, the Department of Agriculture, or DA, is set to implement a maximum suggested retail price for imported rice by the end of January. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. announced that this initiative aims to control unreasonably high rice prices in local markets. The proposed price range will be from 42 to 55 pesos per kilo. Laurel also confirmed that the DA will finalize labeling guidelines within the month to ensure proper enforcement of that policy. Now, this policy is designed to ease the burden on consumers while promoting affordability and price stability in the market. On another front, Congressman Erwin Tulfo fires back at criticism, claiming he lacks the qualifications to run for senator. Zandro Ochona has the details.
ACT-CIS Party List Representative Erwin Tulfo blasts critics for questioning his credibility ahead of the 2025 midterm elections after issues on his U.S. passport emerged. On Facebook, former broadcaster Jay Sonsa questioned Tulfo for running as senator in the upcoming polls. Sonsa asked how a man who lied about his identity can run for the Philippine Senate. In his program, Punto Asentado Reload, Tulfo asserted he did not scam anyone.
Ito lang ho masasabi ko, wala po akong nilabag na batas dito sa ating bayan. Wala po akong nilokong tao ni isang Pilipino. Maging sa Amerika nung nandoon po ako, wala po akong inistapa, wala po akong iniskam ng mga Pilipino, maging ng mga Amerikano. Wala po akong niloko. Yung nire-remit ko ho na pera dito ay galing po sa pagod at pawis ko.
Tulfo also admitted he was once an illegal alien in the U.S.
Hindi ko rin ikinahihiya by Aljo na once upon a time nag-TNT ako. Na once upon a time illegal alien ako. Once upon a time nagtrabaho ako na undocumented. Iyon no. Yung ibang mga kababayan ho natin, karamihan ho si mga nakaka-relate. Hanggang ngayon marami po tayong mga kababayan tayo na nag-OFW na walang papel na tumatakbo sa Amerika.
He also blasted vloggers who he said are running a smear campaign against him.
Yung isa naman ho dyan na dating TV personality sa Davao na may kasong istapa. Sir, kung gusto mong makatulong, tumigil ka na lang ho. Imbis na mag-criticize ka, dapat constructive criticism. And you know that. Pag nagbumanat ka, dapat meron kang
Ebidensya.
opinion or idea na ito ang dapat gawin. Hindi yung tira ng tira.
Tulfo believes he's being attacked because he's leading the senatorial surveys. Zandro Ochona, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The National Security Council slams China's aggressive actions in the West Philippine Sea, reiterating the Philippines' strong opposition to the presence of China's, quote, monster ship within its exclusive economic zone near Zambales. Francis Folve has the story.
China Coast Guard 5901 under Republic Act 12064 Philippine Maritime Zones Act, the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, and the 2016 Arbitral Award. You do not possess any legal authority to patrol within the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone. You are directed to depart immediately and to notify us of your intention. China.
This is the radio challenge by BRP Cabra of the Philippine Coast Guard to the so-called monster ship of the China Coast Guard, spotted near Zambales Saturday afternoon. According to the National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya, this incident is a clear example of China's deception, aggression, and bullying in the West Philippine Sea.
We're shadowing it. Nandyan pa rin po hanggang ngayon ang BRP Cabra na siyang nagbabantay at sinusundan itong 5901 sa anumang galaw nito. At meron tayong mga ibang assets gaya ng eroplano mula sa Coast Guard at iba pa mga assets ng ating Northern Luzon Command, ng Area Task Force North, ng National Task Force West Philippine Sea. At hindi po natin ito pinababayaan.
The PCG confirmed that they have been monitoring the CCG vessel for 3 days. The ship has been moving slowly, going up north and returning to the vicinity of Bajo de Masinloc.
As of this time, around 1200, the distance of the Chinese Coast Guard, the location of the Chinese Coast Guard 5901, is at approximately 65 nautical miles from southwest of Los Baines Island of Zambales. So, makikita natin dito, the Chinese Coast Guard is 5901 is no longer crossing the limit of more than of not less than 60 nautical miles. This is already the third day that the BRP Cabra is actively and vigilantly monitoring itong China Coast Guard vessel na to.
While the presence of the monster ship raised concerns, Tariela clarified that there is no evidence linking it to the submersible drone with Chinese markings found recently in Masbate. Maritime law expert Professor J. Batong Bakal interprets China's latest actions as part of its narrative, asserting territorial claims over the waters.
Kung ang sasabihin lang nila ay they're exercising freedom of navigation, pwede yun. Lusot sila doon. Pero obvious naman na yung buong konteksto nung kanilang activity ang dapat nating i-consider, hindi lang kung ano yung sasabihin nila. Malamang ang gagawin niyan ay kagaya ng ginagawa nila sa Malaysia, na every year meron silang seremonyas doon sa James Shoal, no? Baka yun na yung gagawin nila, magsiseremonya siya dyan sa dulo nung sa yung pinaka-edge ng kanilang 9-dash line, no? Na malapit na nga sa atin.
The PCG has documented the incident and will submit a report to the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea. Although this is not the first time the monster ship has been sighted in the Philippine waters, its presence continues to instill fear among Filipino fishermen, reminiscent of similar incidents in Zambales and Palawan. No new reports of harassment against Filipino fishermen have been recorded, but the NSC emphasized the need to strengthen the presence of Philippine troops in the area to support local fishermen. Francis Polbe, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick breather. Basis Points will be right back.
The questions.
Why sounds very serious, but
Seryoso,
watch
no?
it.
Di ba parang, crime, may away pamilya, etc.
The issues.
Who are supposed to be on the faces of our bank, of our money?
Bangko Sentral, no? There is a numismatic committee who meets and decides.
We clarify matters.
The 1,000 peso bill was changed from the three heroes of World War II to the Philippine Eagle.
Pinky Web is always On Point.
Overseas, a New York judge denies President-elect Donald Trump's request to delay his sentencing in the hush money case, keeping the hearing on spin despite his election as president. The case stems from hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels, which led to Trump's conviction in May of last year. This development raises questions about the legal challenges a president-elect faces, and this could impact confidence in U.S. political and business stability. Now, elsewhere in the world, Japan is urging the U.S. government to address growing concerns about the future of bilateral investments between the two nations. The call follows U.S. President Joe Biden's decision to block Nippon Steel's proposed acquisition of U.S. steel. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba warned that the move has shaken confidence among Japanese businesses, raising doubts about the stability of investment relations between Tokyo and Washington. Japan, the largest investor in the United States economy, fears that the block deal could cool future investment flows. Meanwhile, Nippon Steel's president, Tadashi Imai, confirmed that filing a lawsuit against the U.S. government remains an important option under consideration. Now, in other news, Malaysia's appeals court grants jailed former Prime Minister Najib Razak permission to serve his remaining sentence at home, raising questions about the country's legal integrity and governance. This development could damage Malaysia's global investment reputation, raising concerns about political influence in the judiciary and potentially weakening foreign investors' confidence in the country's stability and transparency. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel, always on top.